Hey guys, this is Rocking3 bringing another live commentary, Forza 6. This is going to be part of my tips and tricks, and what we're going to talk about today is differentials. Three different types of differentials in this game. We have the front wheel drive, the rear wheel drive, and the all-wheel drive, of course. On the screen here is the most complicated one, and it's the all-wheel drive, and I hope this screen never keeps you from running an all-wheel drive car, because the all-wheel drive cars are very good in this game. They're very good in the lower class, they're very good in the mid class. I have not ran them above S class, but I'm sure they're going to be very competitive up there as well. One of the biggest advantages to the all-wheel drives, of course, when you race multiplayer, is the launch. You get really good launch, good acceleration, and these cars give you a chance to get to the front of the pack, hopefully without getting crunched in multiplayer, and run away with races. So this is not okay. So on the screen here, this is an Audi, and I think it's an Audi R8, and this is the default that came with the setup. This setup actually is not too far off with what I like to start with. So for the front acceleration, what I like to start with is anywhere between 30 and 40% on the acceleration. So what I'll do is I'm going to start here at 35%. I'm going to put it right into the middle. I'm not sure how this car is going to react to it. But what I'm after here is to get good acceleration in the front, but less than what we're putting in the rear, because I want this car to act a little bit more like a rear-wheel drive car, give you the advantage of having an all-wheel drive car with some acceleration in the front, but not putting it all to the rear so it becomes a rear-wheel drive car. So we're going to put this acceleration number down to 35. Let's actually just shoot for the right in the middle of what I would typically do, and then you'd have to adjust from there. If your car is understeering a little bit, or this is one of the numbers you can come back to. If you want it to, if it is understeering a little bit and the front wheels are doing too much, you can reduce this down a little bit. If it's not doing enough, so like you're taking off at the line and it's pitching sideways, we'll raise that up a little bit. But let's start at 35% for right now. Deceleration on the front, I always keep it 0. I never mess with this at all. I don't want the front wheels to come and play when I'm in a turn. If I increase this any at all, it's going to cause the car probably to understeer a little bit more. But I don't want this to come and play at all. I want the rear to slow the car down, not the front. So I'm going to run at 0%. I want the front wheels doing as little as possible during the turn. So on the rear, what I'll do is I'm actually going to standardly keep this at about 60. I'll run this anywhere between 55 and 70. That is going to be if you have it set up right and it's a rear-wheel drive car. If you are pitching the back end out a little bit, I will actually reduce this a little bit. Sometimes that'll fix it. So what I try to do first is start at 60, and if it handles well, I try to bump that up a little bit. I'll probably end up anywhere from 60 to 67, 68, 70 almost sounds like too much. So let's call it 65, on my way to 65. Deceleration, I do want the back wheels to grab a little bit, so when I'm in a turn and I'm off the gas, it actually pulls the car backwards a little bit, and it helps the front end dive in a little bit. So what I like to start with here is about 25. Usually have kind of an odd number in there, but let's make this a starting point. So a deceleration of 25%. With the deceleration in the front being 0 and the rear being 25, it actually kind of pulls the car back a little bit from the back wheels. This is actually a really good setup. Now the balance here, I like to start at about 75. That is a little bit high. But I tend to like cars that oversteer a little bit more. If you're a person that doesn't like it to oversteer quite as much, this is a really good number to play with. This will center it up a little bit more, a little bit less oversteer, maybe a little more controllable for you. I like to start at 75. I will go as high as 80 if I really need the back end to come around a little bit more. But this percentage right here, and hopefully I've explained them all out, all of these settings, this would be right in the middle, maybe a starting point for me, and I would tweak them accordingly. So that's kind of what I do with all-wheel drive. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit understanding that one. Hopefully that one's not too overly complicated. Let's go ahead and go find a front-wheel drive car, and we'll go through that real quick. Looking. Just give me a car that's front wheel drive. All right, let's go to the rear wheel drive car then. Maybe next time I'll find the front wheel drive. I'll go to the Volkswagens next time. All right, so let's go into the upgrade shop. Let's go into the tune, and actually I may have to buy a part here, and I do. This is a non-tune car for me. There it is. Got to have that race differential in order to make changes. All right, on the differential and the front wheel drives, again, differential here, the deceleration I like to keep very low. I don't want the front wheel drive pulling the car back down, so I will put that down to 0 now. Some cars do slow down better with a little deceleration, so if you do a lot of hard braking but you're going straight, you may want to bump this up a little bit. This will actually use the engine too to slow the car down a little bit. Now the problem with high deceleration is your car might start moving around a little bit when you're braking and not stay in a straight line. I will typically start at 0 there. From a front wheel drive acceleration, or this we're doing rear wheel drive, aren't we? All right, well, we'll use this for both examples. So let's consider this a front wheel drive car. So on the acceleration, I will use on front wheel drives about 25%. That's the same thing with a rear wheel drive, is about 25%. Now, there is advantages to having higher acceleration, is that you will get quicker responses from a front wheel drive car the higher that you move it up. So if you have a car that's front wheel drive, feels a little heavy, isn't having a lot of torque steer, or hopefully has no torque steer, you can actually move this number up until you feel it having torque steer coming out of a turn, if you're hitting it too soon. Now, I'm a person that brakes really late and tries to get on the gas really early, so for me, my number is always going to be a little bit lower. So I will start at 25% and 0% for a front wheel drive car. Now, my rear wheel drive cars, I'm starting with the deceleration higher. I like having 35%-ish deceleration, and I'll move this down too if the car is doing too much, or if I'm downshifting quickly at RPM and it starts swirling around, I'll actually change this to a little bit lower number as well. But again, I like the 25% and 35% as a starting point, and I can move that up and down depending on if I'm losing traction or if I'm pitching the car too sideways. A lot of times you'll see that a higher number will actually make it oversteer, and it'll actually make the car turn sideways a little bit sooner. By fixing that, you go a little bit lower. Lower horsepower cars can probably take a little more acceleration. The higher you go, generally it's a little bit lower, just because the cars are so reactive to the gas pedal. So deceleration, again, 35%, helps slow the car down, helps rotate the car a little bit more, helps it oversteer a little bit more. Again, reduce that if it's pitching the car sideways, and you can move that up as well, but that's generally a pretty good starting for that. Hopefully that helps with all the differentials. I know the all-wheel drive is a little more complicated and takes a little more playing, and every car is different. Please keep in mind that this is not always where every car ends up at. It's just kind of a starting point, and you kind of drive the car and figure out what it's doing. Once you have it tuned, the last thing that I work on is the differential. It's kind of my last final tweak to fix anything that I haven't been able to take out of the car that was causing me problems. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you guys have any questions. See you next video. Later.